Hi, my name is Tanya Rasley. I'm the owner of Kennard Labs in Coos Bay, Oregon. And in this video, we're going to walk through all of the necessary tools and equipment you'll need to make that first batch of soap. There will be extra items included that you can build to, and you don't need every single item listed here. But this gives you a general overview of the typical tools that you will need to make soap. One thing to bear in mind is you will need to separate your food dishes from your soap making dishes. So make sure that those are kept completely separated. You don't want to combine the two. So before we get into what every item is on this table, let's talk a little bit about where to buy your supplies. You can find pretty much everything here at your local big box stores, grocery stores, or even dollar stores. And if you'd like, you can hop on over to soapguild.org, where you'll find a full list of recommended vendors that sell fantastic soap making supplies. The great thing is, if you're a guild member, you can receive special discounts through these vendors. So I've separated all of the equipment here on this table by category, and we're gonna start with the most important part of soap making, which is safety. So let's look a little bit at the safety equipment here. The very first thing you're going to need are goggles. So even if you wear glasses, make sure that you always wear goggles because you're looking to cover the tops and the bottoms. You don't want anything splashing into your eyes. Then you're going to want to make sure that you cover up any bare skin, especially your hands, so always wear gloves. And if you are sensitive to smell, fumes, you will get some fumes from lye when you mix your lye with the water, so feel free to wear a mask as well. Other things too, the gloves are great to cover up the skin on your hands, but wear long sleeves, wear long pants, and make sure you wear shoes and socks because you definitely don't want to get raw soap or lye water on any part of your skin. Aprons are always a great idea as well. So now let's go into our second category, which is your soap making equipment. If you have any hard oils or butters, you're going to want to melt them down. And there are a couple different ways that you can do that. You can either just put them all in these bowls and melt them right here in the microwave, or you can use a smaller pot or even a larger stock pot and make sure that you have a heating source. If you're, say, in a basement or something, you don't have a stove, one of these little hot plates will work just fine to melt down your oils. And the great thing is with melting oils in either a pot or a bowl is you can go ahead and make your batch in either one of these two things. You want to stay away from anything with aluminum in it, so make sure that you don't use metal with aluminum because it will react with the lye and the raw soap. Then moving on, when you make your first batch of soap, you're going to be measuring everything by weight, and there will be a video explaining all of that right here in the how-to library, so be sure to seek that out. But what you're going to need is a simple scale. You don't need to be very fancy here. Just pick up a scale that can measure grams as well as ounces. Measuring by the gram will get you more precise measurements, so just keep that in mind. Now, while you are making soap, one of my most favorite tools would be either spatulas here, or you're going to want just regular little plastic spoons. For spatulas, this is great right here, the silicone, but you want to stay away from anything with wood because wood will degrade and you may get splinters or little pieces of wood in your soap batter, and you really don't want that. Now, another great thing, especially when you're first starting out, is knowing the temperatures of your lye water, the temperatures of your soap batter. So there are a couple different ways that you can do that. You can absolutely use an infrared thermometer, but just know that when you use this, it's only going to test the surface temperature. So always give your bowl a quick stir and then make sure that you take the temperature. Now you can also use candy thermometers as well, but I will say the infrared are my favorite because they're the easiest to use. Now, when you really start getting into different aspects of soap making, you want to start designing your soap and coloring your soap, it's great to have these little pitchers and mixing bowls. You can mix your colorants in here, separate out your soap batter, and design your soap from there. Now the great thing about these wonderful funnels with the pour spouts is that you can get very intricate with your design because this allows you to control your pour a bit more. And with the plastic and the glass, it's totally safe to use and fine to use when you are making soap. Now the other thing is too is when you want to measure out your soap colorants, Your additives, it's great to have measuring spoons or even these smaller measuring spoons as well if you're looking for more precise measurements. And if you just want to do a little bit of color to add to a small amount of your batter, these tiny little beakers are great as well. And when you're using something like an oxide and not something that will just easily mix into water or oil, these great little mini frothers are wonderful to break up any clumps and mix up your colorants. And these are always great too, these little glass bowls where you can kind of just throw in your colorants, or you can put your additives right here, measure it out and keep it off to the side so you're ready to go when you're making your soap, because you only have a limited amount of time. And then of course, the very last thing, when you're ready to pour your soap, you're going to need a mold. And you don't have to spend too much money on a mold. You can do something as simple as one of these little plastic Tupperware containers. You can pour your soap directly into this, and after it saponifies, pop it right out. And these are super cheap, so you can just grab that. You can look at one of our vendors and actually find a really fantastic silicone soap making mold, and these are great as well. And other things too, you can use Pringle cans, you can use, milk cartons. Molds do not need to be expensive. You don't need to spend a lot of money on the equipment that you see here on the table. So the last category deals with designing your soap, and you can use anything from simple funnels. If you want to execute certain swirls, you can use skewers, you can use pipettes, you can use little straws. And then for more intricate designs, go right ahead and use one of these great little squeeze bottles. And then finally, when you're ready to cut that soap and see what it looks like, if you don't have one of those fancy soap cutters yet and you don't need it when you're first starting, go to the hardware store, grab a miter box, and go to any kitchen supply store or your grocery store and find a pastry scraper, and you're able to cut your soap easily with that. And the most important soap making tool in your arsenal is your stick blender. You can absolutely stir your batch by hand with a spoon or a whisk, but I highly recommend running out and grabbing an immersion blender. This will get your soap batter to trace a lot quicker. So now that we know how easy it is to find all of these tools, you can actually get into soap making for very little investment. So go on out and make your first batch.